Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast, discussing the town up or down since 2015. I'm Rich Woodard and you're tuned into the Prematch show in partnership with our friends at the Greyhound Pub in Ipswich. This is the Burton at Home edition, and joining me as always is Seb Brown and a special guest to mark another edition of the Turnstile Blues fanzine. Welcome to Gavin Barber, resplendent in your 1992 Ipswich Town home shirt. How are you, Gav?
Thank you for having me on. Yeah, this is in the new issue of Turnstile Blues, which we're going to talk about later on. There is an article commemorating, in its own strange way, the 30th anniversary of the 91-92 championship winning season, second division championship winning season, and I managed to find a replica shirt that is a replica shirt of the time. It's not a retro re-release. It has the contours on the Ipswich badge and some slight fissures in the Fison's logo if you're interested in detail. But
we won't hold it against you. We can't see that on the YouTube, so you're all good. And it's great to have you with us. As I said, we'll talk more about Turnstile Blues shortly. And Seb, how are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you, mate. I'm all right. The garden has been prepped for Storm Eunice, although I think you're going to get it worse than we are. But yeah, I'm ready to go for that, and I'm ready to go for Burton at home. So yeah, looking forward to the weekend. Is there any symbolicness behind the shirt behind you? It was a 0-0 draw, wasn't it, against Burton about 3 days before the Norwich game? The Luke Chambers very late game. So I think we all thought we'd kind of batter Burton and go into the Norwich game full of confidence. But I guess also at the Pirelli, it was the Selena free kick, wasn't it, in the 90th odd minute? And the famous Mick McCarthy, the more you chant for him, he won't be coming on. So, reliving those two events.
Did Mick McCarthy just join the podcast?
Effortless, wasn't it?
It was amazing.
Uncanny. He can do Paul Cook and I can do a budget Yorkshireman.
And that was the game of shall we pick the team for you, which I am claiming I started. So because I think I did. So that's one of my proud moments of sarcasm towards a former manager. Let's jump into the news. And first things first, a frustrating weekend last weekend for ITFC Women away at Crawley 2-0 up. And match abandoned due to poor conditions. We've got an update on the rescheduled match for that, and the big news ahead of the Southampton FA Cup game next weekend. Let's go and have a chat with Kieren Standley from ITFC Women. Joining us as always, Kieren Standley from ITFC Women. Kieren, you guys have had a hell of a few weeks, haven't you? How are you, first and foremost?
Yeah, doing well, thanks, Rich. Yeah, I think I'm starting to feel the effects of spending too much time in the rain. I feel like a bit of man flu might be coming on. We've had a little bit of bad luck over the last couple of weeks where we can't seem to catch a break with it, whether it be to do with pitches or weather or whatever it's been. Back in the dry now, thankfully. When you're still in that situation, you think it's never going to end. But I'm looking forward to another week ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we'll briefly talk about Crawley, obviously 2-0 up, and we won't drill too much into that situation. Kind of felt a bit harsh on the girls. Another away trip, 2 hours, I think, is it there or thereabouts for that?
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
Taking the lead, and it was just one of those where you kind of feel just frustration, and because the last few weeks have been really tough for the girls as well, and we talked about MK Dons, didn't we? And you kind of thought, oh, boom, we're back in it, 2-0 up, that's great. And what us following on Twitter is kind of like brilliant, back to it, back on, back at the level that we set ourselves this season, and then obviously conditions intervene. But it sounds like you were going to have a weekend off, but that might not be the case now.
Yeah, so they've rearranged the fixture for this weekend. Both teams were due to have a weekend off. So I think it's the most natural thing to do. They've also changed the venue because I'm not sure with the storms that we've been having in the UK this week that we would have potentially had the game go ahead if it was on another grass surface or even in the same venue as before. So yeah, we're playing Crawley again this weekend. It's at the Camping World Community Stadium in Horsham. It's a little bit further down from where we played the other day in Hawley. But I've had a look online. To be fair, it's not a bad little ground. It's a 3G surface, so there shouldn't be any risk of an abandonment. And yeah, we've just got to go down there again and essentially just pick up where we left off. I know obviously the score gets reset to 0-0 and we have to play the whole game again. But if we play like we did the other day, I would say that was up there with, you know, one of our better performances in recent times. I think for a surface that was incredibly wet and sloppy, we played some beautiful stuff. We nearly scored one of the goals of the season in the first half in terms of a team move. So to be able to play that level of football on a wet surface was really good. We played well, and if we can play like that again this weekend on a much better, drier surface, I'd like to think we're going to come away with the 3 points.
Fingers crossed. One player who probably won't be making it, but who we are very fond of, obviously on Blue Monday, is Lucy O'Brien. Worth plugging. Another great interview with one of the team. They speak so well, Kieren. Is that can you take any credit for that, or is it they're just a great team?
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, no, they're fantastic. You know, I've always said to them that, you know, the more they expose themselves to in terms of media, the better, because so many of them have aspirations to go and play at the elite level of the game. And as you progress through the pyramid and get to the top, then of course the media attention is going to keep growing and growing. So by exposing them to podcasts, radio interviews, pre and post batch with myself and all kinds of things like that, it'll only benefit them in the long run. And Lucy's one of a number of players that are excellent when it comes to doing media. So yeah, I have watched it, Rich. It was very good. Well done. And yeah, I'm pleased for Lucy as well to get her out there, and so people know what she's about, because she's a very you know, talented up and coming player that's going to be very much in the spotlight in the years to come.
Yep. Definitely an exciting prospect. Another thing that's an exciting prospect for 2 weeks' time is Southampton in the FA Cup. All the details were announced today for tickets, but you're going to talk us through them now, aren't you? We're going to gather at the Gold Star. We're going to flock to Felixstowe. Those are the hashtags that I'm trying to get training. It's not working.
It's a good effort. It's a good effort. It's not quite as punchy as Pack Out PR, but you know that you can't do anything about that. Obviously, our ground name is different, but yeah, we announced the ticket information on Thursday. So for the first time I assume this is the first time in history that we've done this. We've actually provided advance tickets for the fixture. So thanks to Gavin Preston, who's the ticketing manager at Ipswich Town, for putting this together. So you can purchase your tickets on ITFC tickets as you would for single game tickets for the men's fixtures. It's on the list of fixtures on the website. You can buy them in advance. You can either have them posted to you, or you can print them at home. So if you want to secure tickets in advance of the fixture, which we recommend that you do, because the demand is likely to be very high, you can do so. Get yourself secured, ready for next weekend. Tickets will be available on the day as well. We do anticipate, but you know, better not to run the risk of potentially selling out and you left being disappointed. So, yeah, I would definitely say go ahead, book online, take advantage of the ITFC ticket service, and get involved with what's likely to be an absolutely incredible game. I mean, the first time. You know, it'd be the first time for us to reach the quarterfinals if we get through. I think it's a great advert for women's football that a third-tier team is guaranteed to reach the last 8. And of course, us and Southampton have had 2 very good battles already this season, and going toe-to-toe in the league. So I think it's going to be hotly contested. I think it'll be really, really tough. But, you know, the fans can make a massive, massive difference. As we've seen, you know, we are one of the best supported women's clubs in the country. You see on the men's side of things, you know, 20,000 plus at Portman Road every Saturday. It's nearly 7,000 going to MK Dons. This football club has a phenomenal fan base. And, you know, we want to try and tap into that. We want to try and encourage people to come down and watch another team that belongs to the club. You know, because I feel like the girls deserve that. They will thrive off that atmosphere and that environment. So if we can try and get a record crowd down there on the 27th of February, that would be amazing, because you know, that could make a real difference in terms of seeing us progress into the last 8.
Yeah, and Lucy said as much as well. We spoke to her about that, and it was clear that, you know, the team really value that support. And when the margins are so tight against Southampton, as we know from previous experience, a big crowd, a partisan crowd behind the Tractor Girls will make all the difference. So yeah, do get involved.
What I would say is, 2.5 years ago, we had our record crowd at the time of 761 come and watch us play Norwich in an East Anglian derby. And the atmosphere was absolutely phenomenal. And the girls just said they just felt that energy of that night of the crowd just driving them on. And, if we can get over 1,000 people to this game and hit into four figures, that would be absolutely amazing. And that would make a huge difference. And we can almost be like a figurehead for women's football in the East region, but also in the South, because, our attendances are consistently up there as one of the highest in the Women's National League. And if town fans, really want to make a difference, we can really push this and we can make a name for ourselves as the best supported club in the country, I think. So, I'm really keen to push this as hard as we can, get a big crowd down there, and hopefully the girls will deliver on the day and we'll get into the last 8.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Absolutely. A week, I'm sure, of plenty of Twitter PR and all that kind of stuff. We'll be getting involved as well ourselves. ITFCwomen.co.uk for the website, ITFC.co.uk. The news story up there that I quickly put up for those watching on YouTube. I'll just quickly do that again with all the details there. And as you said, go to the ITFC tickets website. It's there. And at ITFC Women, is it, for the Twitter?
That's it. Yeah. We'll be building up to this quite a lot next week, of course, because it's a pretty big fixture for us. So plenty of things going on in the next week or so.
Yeah, plenty to get excited about. Get involved. If you've been waiting for a trip to Felixstowe, there could be no better game than this one here, and hopefully the start of a lot more people getting involved in watching a team that is definitely deserving of wider support from our fan base and beyond as well. So, Kieren, all the best for the rearrangement on Sunday. Wish the team all the very best, and we'll no doubt speak with you and or some of the team hopefully next week, and be keeping an eye on all the build up to the big one on the 27th.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it.
Guys, are you able to make it to Southampton, or are you just sending good vibes, positive vibes from wherever you are next weekend? We're in Morecambe, aren't we, the day before, Seb? So, yeah,
we won't be down there, but supporting from afar as always.
Gav, have you got to see ITFC Women yet this season?
I've seen them twice. Yeah, I wish I'd been able to see them more. I saw them at the Gold Star ground earlier in the season. Saw a 1-0 win against Cardiff. Saw them at a ground that's the most local to me, which is Oxford United. The ground is actually Oxford City's. Is where Oxford United Women play. Unfortunately, that was just before Christmas, and that was the only game that we've lost in the league this season, 3-1, which was a little bit disappointing, and even more concerningly, Oxford United Women, who I have been, also watching for a few years, are now right up behind us in the league table. Could have gone above us the other night if their game at Hounslow hadn't been called off. But I've definitely got in my calendar is the league game against Southampton in early April.
Yeah, that's going to be a cracker, isn't it? So, that FA Cup tie next weekend is definitely a precursor to the big one in the league. And ITFC Women features heavily in the new issue of Turnstile Blue, which you're here to tell us about. If I put the front cover on there, people will know what I mean there. Tell us about that. Some big interviews.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. So our colleague Matt Makin has got an interview with Bonnie Horwood and Blue Wilson, two leading tractor girls. That was done by Zoom a few weeks ago. And they've been really generous with their time and their insight. I know that Lucy O'Brien and others have been on this show, but it's great to see the profile of the women's team being raised through outlets like this, Turnstile Blues, other forms of social media, and the interview that Matt's done with them. I think I hope people enjoy reading it, and I think what it shows really very sincerely is how much they enjoy playing for this club. These are particularly in Bonnie's case, people who are used to playing at a higher level, but they really enjoy playing at this club. And there's something special going on here, and it's really good to be a part of that. And for those of us who are getting into it, as an increasing number of Ipswich Town fans are, to be present at the start of what feels like something very special. Yeah,
it's definitely. We've talked about it, as you say, plenty of times on this show. It feels like something that is deserving of our backing, the quality of the football there, but the eloquence, the determination when you hear from the players is really great to buy into, and makes you proud to be an Ipswich fan, doesn't it? So great to hear from them in this edition. What else can we look out for? And tell us also where we can buy it as well.
So what else is in this issue is, as briefly trailed earlier, a 30th anniversary piece relating to the 91-92 Second Division Championship season. That's actually an exclusive extract from the diary of a 17-year-old fanzine editor of the time, Stu Market, name that you might be lodged in the recesses of your brain, but Stu's given us an exclusive extract from his diary of the era. We've also got, with seeing as again, there's been a managerial change in the men's team between issues of Turnstile Blues. We've got a look at from Rob Freeman at how Kieran McKenna's early tactics are shaping up, and in particular how that's brought the best out of, or it seems at the early stages to be bringing the best out of Jano Donatian in a back three in particular. Sorry, Rob, spoiler your piece there. Steve Moore has heroically looked back over the Paul Cook era. Because nobody else wanted to do that, but he has endured that pain for the rest of us. And then looking out more broadly at the world of football, indeed the world of sport, we've got some a review of Michael Holding's book, Why We Kneel, How We Rise, which you might be familiar with. Grant Bage has explained how the learning, the experiences that Michael Holding, cricket legend, talks about is applicable to our experience as football fans and indeed as Ipswich fans. He's even found a Suffolk link with Michael Holding, which is pretty impressive. And it's on similar vein, Stu Hellingsworth has written about the cost of living, the issues with that everyone's experiencing with the cost of living at the moment, and how that is likely to affect people's ability to come to football. That is going to be an increasing issue over coming months. Stu has also written a highly conceptual poem, but don't let that put you off buying the issue, which, to answer your other question, Rich, will be available at Portman Road this Saturday for the game against Burton Albion. We'll be selling from 1:30 around the ground. The near Sir Ralph's statue is the best place to find us, but we will be in other places as well. If you can't make it to the ground, there are a limited number of copies available via eBay. If you go to our social media, Turnstile_Blue is the Twitter handle, then you can find out how to get those.
Turnstile_Blue. And any chance of any sneak copies being sold from the Greyhound, or is it just head to Portman Road?
I think that's largely contingent on the supply chain. I mean, post Brexit, who knows how that works?
Just in time,
the latest we heard is that the hard copies are available. They will be delivered to the plan is they will be delivered to the Greyhound. So if all right thinking Ipswich fans are, you're going to be in the Greyhound for your pre-match pint or lunch. Then if you're there 1 o'clock-ish thereabouts, then you might be able to get an exclusive copy from one of us. Matt will probably offer to sign it. Just ignore that. Don't enable that sort of behaviour. It's
I hear that he's got a bum bag with signed photos in now, like Warnock. So he deserves it. If it's a good interview, then maybe I'll get him to sign that as well. Great stuff. And if you're not at the Greyhound for your pre-match, where else are you, frankly? So meet the folks either at the Greyhound for the possibility. Let's not commit just in case. But certainly Portman Road for 1:30 at the Sir Ralph Ramsey statue. The great team at Turnstile Blues doing fantastic work as always, and at an eye-watering price in a good way as well. So plenty of good stuff there to sink your teeth into, I'm sure, during the halftime debates about the 0-0 draw that we've just seen for the first 45 minutes. Spoiler alert. In other bits and pieces of news, interesting to get your guys' thoughts on this. Ipswich Town and the Her Game 2 campaign announced a link up this week. And there's a match, I think. Seb, you can tell us about that in a second. But the campaign is around raising awareness of sexist abuse and misogyny surrounding football and making attending football matches much more safer environment for female supporters. So obviously this is fantastic news. And Seb, this is something as men that we probably don't think about. We had Francine from Rainbow Tractors. This is just probably a lot of the issues here. There's definitely a minority, as there always is, which is going to make life difficult for everyone. But even subconsciously, I'm sure at times male supporters just don't think about their actions or what they are saying has effects. And these campaigns are really important to bring that home.
Absolutely, yeah. Like you said, we're probably all slightly guilty of it, completely unconsciously. But what a great campaign, and what a great thing for the club to become involved with. We've got a few quotes, haven't we, from the founder, the Her Game 2 founder, Kaz May. She's told the club site, "It's fantastic to have a club the size of Ipswich Town on board with the Her Game 2 campaign. Sexist abuse and misogyny surrounding football has always been a big problem. So one of our biggest aims is to build a safer space for all female supporters. We're delighted we can work in partnership with Ipswich Town to raise awareness and create a safe space for female staff and supporters at Portman Road." Another great example, isn't it, of the club, reaching out, being proactive, getting involved in campaigns, and absolutely right. Like you said, we had the Rainbow Laces 2-3 weeks ago, and this is another example of a great initiative by the club.
Gav, Turnstile Blues is generally quite proactive in agitating for change and awareness of issues such as this. So presumably you guys are fully behind this as well.
Yeah, 100%. It's really great news. We've seen a lot of other clubs sign up for this, and we were really pleased. We were all, I think, the vast majority of Ipswich fans, including Turnstile Blues, were really pleased to see this week's announcement that Ipswich Town had joined up. It is an increasing movement, and it's a really important movement. And as Seb rightly said a minute ago, this is all about making sure that everybody feels welcome in the ground and included and not threatened. And I took a slightly nervous dip into the world of social media when I saw that this had been announced. It's always dangerous to read the bottom half of the internet, but I was genuinely interested to see what people were saying in response to the club announcing this on Twitter this week. And I think the headline issue is that it's really encouraging that so many clubs have signed up. It's super encouraging that Ipswich have signed up and reflects well on the new ownership. And I think it was very encouraging to see that the vast majority of responses were supportive. Lots of people saying, "This is great, this is great, this is great." But this is about raising awareness and raising issues. And some of the replies were along the lines of, "That's fine, so long as we can still sing the Delia chant." And that for me highlights why this is important, because if people who think that they're not doing anything wrong are saying, "I support this, but I still want to sing a song about the female owner of another club, which includes some highly sexist, highly misogynist terminology," then that is the problem that we need to solve. By joining campaigns like this, hopefully we as a club and as a supporter base can be part of the solution and not part of the problem. But I do think we have to, I know you've had discussions on the pod before about certain chants, and I think we have to be upfront about this. So it is important to raise these issues. They're difficult conversations. It's encouraging to see these conversations happening at a number of clubs. Actually, you probably saw there was a report that came out last week from Tottenham Hotspur about the use of the Y word, and that's similar. It's a really difficult conversation to have with supporters for a club to say, "We know why you want to sing that, but we don't want you to sing that." And those are the sorts of conversations that are triggered by campaigns like this. And I think it's really important in the context of that particular song, which is one that a lot of Ipswich fans find problematic, to say the least, but still keeps getting sung. So I hope that by joining Her Game 2, we can start to have these conversations and move away from that sort of expression.
Yeah, really well put, Gav. Yeah, absolutely right. And there's always going to be a feeling of uncomfortableness with certain people about certain things, and unfortunately, some of these topics. And we've I know Francine from Rainbow Tractors came on here and spoke to us last week, and then had to put a message out on her socials, talking about some of the stuff that they've had to get involved in because people reacted in a certain way. And sadly, at the moment, there's football supporters, nationwide, are not really shedding a good light on themselves with certain actions on the pitch as well as off it as well. So these are important conversations. We want to make Portman Road as welcoming a place as we can do for everyone, and this is just a big part of that as well. So fully behind that. Maddie Reeder is the ITFC ambassador, and we're hoping to speak to her at some point as well. And Seb, did you mention before there's a game that's
There is, a dedicated weekend.
Yeah.
So the Cambridge at home game and the Southampton at the Gold Star on the Sunday. So it's the weekend of the 2nd and 3rd of April. That's a dedicated Her Game 2 weekend. So 2 great matches back to back for the men and for the ladies on the Sunday. So get yourself down to both games and let's help spread some awareness of this great initiative.
Yep, good stuff. Right, guys, let's talk about Burton. I think that's possibly the most passionate and energetic someone has ever said that phrase. I'm pretty certain of that. Burton Albion on the weekend for Ipswich Town. Seb, give us the state of play with where Burton find themselves in the league at the moment.
So Burton are absolutely slap bang in the middle of the table, sitting in 12th position on 43 points. Played 32, won 12, drawn 7 and lost 13. They've scored 41 goals and they've conceded 41 goals. So when you see those kind of numbers, that explains why they are absolutely slap bang in the middle of the table. Slightly below us, they're very much a home kind of team. The vast majority of their points come at the Pirelli. I assume it's still called the Pirelli. 28 of their 43 points have come at home, only 15 points away, which is sort of the 16th in the league table. So very much a home side and not that great away. Yeah,
and I mean, there's other stats around that. Their XG, as in their expected goals that they score away from home, is about 1.34, which is again 11th, pretty average. Actually, I kind of looked into it because obviously we tried to find an away lean for the stats when we're playing teams at home, and our home XG is only 1.2. I mean, that's, you look at our recent record at home, 1-goal margins or 0-0s and so on. So I mean, we'll talk more about Burton, but that's a stat that probably Kieran McKenna will want to improve on. Their expected goals against away is 1.68, so that gives us hope that maybe we can improve on that 1.2. Form in the last 6 games, again, pretty average, right? 16th in the form table over the last 6, 2 wins, 1 draw, and 3 defeats. Last time out, Seb, I mean, this caught everyone by surprise, didn't they, midweek?
It did, didn't it? Yeah, they played on Tuesday night against Bolton and they were 3-0 up after 18 minutes. But before that, they'd only won 1 out of their last sort of 5 games. So, it was and Bolton were very much on an upward trajectory, weren't they? So it's, quite a surprising result. They, as I said, 3-0 up after 18 minutes. Joe Powell, the chap that scored against us back in August, opened the scoring. Right back / centre backs, John Brayford, scored a couple from set pieces. And then Bolton pulled a goal back in the 94th minute. But yeah, a pretty comfortable victory. And Hasselbank after the game was pretty happy with the performance, as you would be, because they haven't been in great form. And Bolton are very much a team on the up. But I guess that just shows the craziness of League One, doesn't it? Yeah, and the last time against us, Gav, do you remember the Paul Cook era? It wasn't so long ago, but I've kind of, like a lot of previous regimes, I've put it back in my mind. This 2-1 defeat back in August. Do you remember much about that? And in your thoughts about us at that time? It was very up and down, wasn't it?
It was very up and down. I think back in August we were still entertaining the notion that Paul Cook's new team would click at some point, weren't we? And that away defeat at Burton was something that a lot of us, probably including me, tried to rationalise, but it soon became clear that this was the norm. But they're an interesting side, aren't they? Burton, we've played against them a few times over the years, including at championship level. I'm always there's 2 things that always surprise me about Burton. One is how far it is from Burton Town Centre to the Pirelli, because it doesn't feel like Burton could be that big, but it apparently it is. And also, it still surprises me that Nigel Clough is not the manager of Burton. That I can't really get used to that. That's a processing thing. That I'll see Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank walking out on Saturday, and I'll be like, no, that's wrong. No, you've got that wrong. That's not the guy. But I do rate Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank as a manager. Actually, I think he's quite underrated. I think he's always done. Wherever he's been, I think he's done better than expected. He's done above par. He's not kind of like done a Chris Wilder and kind of blasted his way through the divisions, but he's always done all right. And I think he's he probably deserves a bit more credit as a manager. And to have a club with the budget of Burton in this league, given the size of the other clubs in it, I think is pretty impressive. So I think it'll be a tough game on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I'm a Burton fan, I probably sometimes pinch myself thinking, like, Premier League goal scorer extraordinaire Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank is managing my team. It's the second spell at Burton. Seb, talk to us about his record there.
The job he did last year when he came back was phenomenal. He took over on January the 1st, 2021, so 14 months ago now. They were gone. They were bottom of the league. I think they were 8 points adrift. They played 2 games more than the team in 20th position, and they went on this incredible run of 44 points from 72 games and finished 44 points out of a possible 72 and finished comfortably in 16th. So yeah, like Gav was saying, I think he's a really, really talented manager, a really, really good manager, and you know, to have a team like Gav said of Burton's budget comfortably year in year out in mid-table speaks wonders for the job that he does there.
Yeah, it was QPR and Northampton in between the 2 spells of Burton. In terms of what to expect, I mean, we've talked a lot about kind of how average most of the metrics are that we can find to talk about them. 41 goals scored, as you mentioned, isn't particularly good. The amount of goals they score away from home isn't impressive. They're 13 goals away is the 20th best in the division. 13.3 shots per game is okay. Slightly less away from home, and yeah, I mean, but the kind of stark thing really that jumps out in terms of the way they create goals is they've got the joint 3rd most goals from set pieces in the division, and that was so important on Tuesday against Bolton. And it's not even I guess we like to talk about phases. It's not even the first phase of a set piece, because even the 3rd goal came from a defensive clearance from a corner that fell. I think it was who's the left wing back, Seb?
It's Williams Kagolo, I think it is.
Kagolo, yeah,
that's
he scored
how I
the goal,
pronounce
didn't he?
it. Yeah.
But that resulted from a Joe Powell corner in the first place. So this isn't a team that's going to pass us to death. 45.3% possession on average is the 18th best. Accuracy not great, even lower again away from home, which isn't too much of a surprise. But these set pieces, guys, you know, Gav, we've seen League One teams who rely solely on set pieces to get where they are, and I guess I don't want to damn Burton a little bit here, but this is a strategy that seems to work, particularly against teams like Ipswich and Sunderland and others.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, we've said that Burton are arguably punching above their weight to be mid-table in this division, and that's what you've got to do, isn't it? Is to make the most of what you've got. And you know, we've seen Wickham make the most of extremely limited resources over the years, and you've got to be pragmatic. And you know, as you say, Rich, there are teams like Ipswich, Sunderland, Portsmouth, etc. We have a status that makes us think that we should be strong teams in this league, that we should be looking upwards and to get out of it, which of course we are. But at the end of the day, you're in League One for a reason, and you know your defenders are equally as vulnerable to set pieces as anyone else is. So yeah, it is something to be careful of. I think, you know, as Ipswich fans, probably most football fans, but certainly Ipswich fans, we'd have got used to being nervous about conceding corners and free kicks over the years. I would like to say that the defensive setup that Kieren McKenna's got in place perhaps makes us less so, but it's very early days to be tempting fate like that. But I do think it'll be a tight game on Saturday. And you referenced the Paul Cook era earlier, and one thing I noticed is that Burton are very much a second half team. They score a lot of goals in the second half, and under our last manager, we were exceptionally adept at conceding goals in the second half, particularly at home and giving away leads. So, you know, if fingers crossed, if we can, you know, grind out a win on Saturday and avoid being worn down by those late goals from set pieces or any other way, then hopefully it might show us that we're genuinely starting to make progress under Kieren McKenna. Yeah,
I mean, the stats on that second half versus first half situation, it's 1.03 points per game for their first half kind of contribution in terms of points, which is the 20th if the league table was kind of split into a first half and a second half, so pretty lousy. And then fourth in the second half league table, 1.56 points per game in the second half, which is something crazy there. But there are defensive stats, Seb, that give us some cause for optimism, aside from just the league table. In the, you know, this isn't an MK Dons that we're talking about here, but there are frailties.
There are, yeah, only 6 clean sheets so far all season, which is the 16th worst in the league. 41 goals conceded, like we said at the start, which is 1.3 per game. They've conceded 21 goals away from home, so they are susceptible. Like you said, the XG was 1.68 against expected goals against away from home, wasn't it? So hopefully we can fill our shooting boots on Saturday. Aerials, they've won 27.1 overall, which is pretty decent. That's third in the league. That's pretty good. Aerials away slightly lower at 26.9%.
And this is a team that also likes to mix it up as well, disciplinary wise.
Yeah, 59 yellows and 4 reds, 3 of which were in away games, is the 7th worst in the league. So they don't mind, I guess, like Gav was saying, set pieces, long throws. We'll come on to Tom Hammer in a minute. They don't mind mixing stuff up to try and bring things to their kind of, make it an even playing field, shall we say.
In terms of style of play, I mentioned that, the possession stats aren't great in terms of accurate long balls. I've kind of went nerdy this afternoon and went searching. I mean, there are no stats that give any credence to the fact that they're a good possession team, either by going long or by going short. So expect, I think, the load on the halfway line and pressing forward, they quite like to win the ball back in the opposition's half. So that's something to look out for. But they're not a counter-attacking team either. So I'm just not sure really how this team creates the goals. And I think away from home, that's the factor here. So the set pieces are critical. We've talked about that. And the personnel, there's been a bit of a change around here. Do you want to talk us through some of the ins and outs, Seb?
Yeah, they were quite busy, weren't they, surprisingly? And breaking news tonight as we record on Thursday night, they've added a free agent as well, so we'll come on to that later. But in terms of the ins, they've had Ghassan Ademi join from Norwich. He's a striker. Williams Lagogolo, that we mentioned earlier, he's coming from Borough, who's sort of a left attacker / left wing back. Harry Chapman's coming on loan from Blackburn. He's a right winger. Matej Kovar is coming from Man United to provide backup to the likely starter, Ben Garrett. He's just simply a bench option to provide a bit of cover. And they've signed Christian Sadie as well on loan from Bournemouth, who is a forward player, and I think he started against Bolton in midweek as well. And then in terms of outs, they were quite active as well. We all know Lucas Akins. He finally left after 350 odd appearances and 8 years at Burton to join Mansfield. Kieran Wallace went to Mansfield as well. Kieran O'Hara was a goalkeeper. He was the backup goalkeeper to Garrett. He went out to Fleetwood. Kane Hemmings was a striker who went to Tranmere. Michael Bostwick went to Stevenage. They were quite active, and a load of youngsters kind of went out as well. So they were active in the window. And tonight they've signed Omar Niasse, who at one point went to Everton for 13.5 million quid, but he's not played for a couple of years. We'll come on to him when we discuss the striking options. But yeah, another late addition today.
Yeah, 35 league appearances, only 12 of those starts for Everton, 8 goals. But yeah, we'll talk about him and his potential inclusion in there. Gav, I mean, in terms of that business, and we kind of saw similar with MK Dons last week, a lot of loans, which I guess isn't too much of a surprise at this level. A few undisclosed kind of cheap signings there, but a lot of young players coming in there, 21, 24, 21, 19, and then Seb mentioned Akins leaves, Kieran Wallace 27, Kane Hemmings 30, Michael Bostwick 33. Is there a sense for you maybe that there's a changing of the guard? What's your reading of that bit of business for you?
Yeah, that's right. January is an interesting time to do it. Sort of turnover that you might normally expect in the summer, and I think Seb highlighted Lucas Akins as a player that we're used to seeing play for Burton against us down the years. So I wouldn't claim to be an expert on how Burton fans feel about things, but I imagine that felt like quite a significant moment for Lucas Akins to be moving on, because he's certainly been very dependable for them down the years. I mean, I think it's sort of we talked up Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank as a manager earlier. And for me, that probably shows that he's someone who does have an eye on the future. He's obviously pragmatic in his style of play for the reasons we discussed, but he's also someone that knows that Burton are never going to be a club that will improve their squad by going out and splashing £500,000 on someone. They have to renew, and they have to bring in younger players as 3 of those 5 that have come in are on loan. So there's a bit of a gamble there, and we know from painful experience how unsettling it can be to be overly reliant on loan players. But yeah, I think it will says something about Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank's bravery as a manager to be moving those dependable figures on, and no doubt their big presences in the dressing room as well in favour of some who are younger. We as Ipswich fans can but hope that they take a little while to settle in, and that maybe we can take advantage on Saturday.
Yeah, a bit of inexperience. Guess who Lucas Aiken's new manager is, by the way? It's Nigel Clough. At
Mansfield. Nigel Clough, of course.
Nigel Clough. Yeah. Seb, talk us through formations and personnel.
So when he came back and when he was in charge sort of first time round, he was kind of very much a 4-2-3-1 kind of guy. But in October, they changed to a back 3/back 5 system, and they've stuck with it ever since. It kind of evolved from a sort of a 3-4-3 to now it's more sort of a 3-4-1-2. They kind of play one midfielder slightly advanced behind the front two, but it will definitely be a 3 at the back with kind of wing backs. I guess how far those wing backs decide to push up against the likes of, you think it'll be a back 5, don't you? How far those wing backs like to push up against the likes of Burns and Thompson, I guess, will remain to be seen. But expect them to line up with Garrett in goal. Ben Garrett, like we mentioned earlier, 32 appearances, so he's never present so far this season with 6 clean sheets. The centre-backs likely to be Connor Shaughnessy, started off as a central midfielder, very much a defensive central midfielder, but he's dropped back into the left centre-back position recently. He's got 3 goals and 2 assists in 30 appearances so far this season. Sam Hughes has joined on loan, permanently after a few loan spells from Leicester. He's made 7 appearances, 1 goal and 1 assist. And then the centre of the back 3, we're a bit unsure. You think Ryan Leake will come in, 14 starts. He tends to sit a bit deeper, so a bit of almost like a sweeper. But John Brayford did score twice there from that position against Bolton on Tuesday night. He's not a centre-back by trade, but he's kind of filling in there and doing okay, but he is 34 years old. So I guess the question will be, can he manage sort of, 2 games in relatively quick succession? But given his age, potentially will come onto the town team. Is there a chance that, he might be a bit susceptible to Jackson's pace as well?
Yeah, Brayford can play right back and I think can play midfield if needed as well. Yeah, I get what you mean that off the back of a 2-goal midweek. But I think
he stays. I think he'll start.
Yeah, you're probably right. I just like round pegs, round holes kind of situation there. And Ryan Leake is obviously an orthodox centre back, but yeah, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And then there's some real kind of attacking threat and big name possibly missing for the weekend, and Cameron Borthwick-Jackson, who
he suffered concussion. I'll be honest, I can't remember what the concussion rules are. I don't know if it's based. Is it a time scale? Is it a 10-day thing or a 2-week
days
thing? Yeah, I thought it was 10 days. In which case he should be missing in theory. Subbed off with concussion, missed the Bolton game, so in theory he won't be playing. Which means Williams Kogolo will start in the left wing back kind of position, like we said earlier. Joined from Middlesbrough permanently in the January window. 7 appearances, 1 goal and no assists yet. And the right wing back, I've realised I said Tom Hammer earlier, didn't I? Tom Harmer, I'm assuming.
Hamer.
Okay. He can also cover left wing back. He's the guy who's got the long throw options. He likes to get forward. If you see his heat map, he does like spending a bit of time in the opposition's half. He's got 1 goal and 2 assists from 32 appearances so far this season. So he'll be nailed on to be the right wing back option.
And who's the guy that I think he signed from Charlton possibly, who's been missing?
You did this on purpose, aren't you? So I've got to try and pronounce the name. It's Paul Hurst's much coveted Deji Oshiala.
Oshilaja, yeah. Okay.
Decent, yeah. I remember Paul Hurst going for him in the window, and we were trying to sign a centre-back right towards the end of the... we got Matthew Pennington instead, didn't we?
Yeah. Joe Powell, Gav, is that a name that you are familiar with at this level? He's a decent, creative central midfielder and did some damage in that defeat as well. Is that a name that you're aware of?
It's not one that springs to mind. No, that's okay. I've got my Joe Powell revision lined up for Saturday morning, but I'll.
You can listen back to the podcast.
Apologies for missing that. Yeah. A name that I do recognise from the midfield area is Michael Mancien, who's formerly with Chelsea. Started his career at Chelsea. One of those players who, in Championship days, we often used to see playing against as well on loan at various clubs. But it's quite a stellar early career, but now dropping down to this level. And I think it's we've seen with some of the players that we've brought in, haven't we? Raheem Harper being an obvious example, that players who kind of learn to play in central midfield with a particular style won't necessarily settle into the way that things pan out in League One. So it'll be interesting to see if Mancien plays on Saturday, how him and Morsey interact in the centre of the park.
Indeed. And there's not too many options back up in midfield. Seb, do you want to give us some possibles there? And I guess there's one familiar name.
You've got Fraser Blake-Tracy. He's not a central midfielder. He's a sort of a left-sided kind of player. He's been out for the last 2 months since November with an injury. He played against Cambridge a couple of weeks ago. Last weekend, and he was a sub on Tuesday night. So I guess potentially he might maybe come in somewhere. Johnny Smith's got a calf injury. He won't be featuring. Jacob Maddox and Terry Taylor have been bench options. They signed a guy called Charlie Lakin from Birmingham in the summer. He was on the bench against Bolton. He's a central midfield kind of option. Danny Rowe, you can still find him if you remember Danny Rowe. He's still there. Hasn't featured since August. Hasselbank said he had a couple of offers come in to go out on loan in January, but for whatever reason, Danny Rowe didn't decide to go. And they got Thomas O'Connor. He joined Wrexham, my free spending Wrexham up here. He joined them for 500 grand, so he's gone out the window as well. So, like you say, not that many options in the central midfield area.
It's another, I think I chucked in the 500k because that's what the internet said. It was an undisclosed fee, but it was a significant one that they couldn't turn down. But crazy that he's dropped 2 divisions. But I guess money talks, doesn't it?
Look at Paul Mullin, and also you get to live in
5
North
goals.
Wales. What more could you want?
Let's move on. Talk to us about Kieran Gilligan.
He'll be the attacking midfielder. Very young guy, come through the academy there. Only 5 appearances, no goals and no assists so far this season. He tends to like to drift out a little bit to the right-hand side. So we mentioned Barry Bannon, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago with Alan Judge, sort of comparison popping up everywhere. Gilligan does like to pop out to the right-hand side on his heat map, so don't be surprised to see him sort of linking up a little bit with Tom Hamer on the right.
And Harry Chapman's another option, the loanee from Blackburn that we talked about. He's typically a right winger, but I think he can play in attacking midfield, possibly not number 10. And then, the 2 strikers, both January acquisitions, aren't they?
Yeah, so both the guy from Norwich came in and Sadie from Bournemouth. They both started up front against Bolton in midweek. The guy from Norwich, Ahadmi's got 13 appearances, 2 goals, no assists. Sadie's 4 appearances, no goals, no assists. He's primarily, to be fair, an attacking midfielder. He's kind of helping them out there. Aiken's obviously the big one, the big loss. Hemmings moved on to Tranmere as well. Lewis Moult is coming back to fitness. He missed some spells, but he missed the Bolton game with a knock, so I'm not sure if he's going to be fit or not. Chapman can also cover up front if needed. I guess he could be another option to go through the middle a little bit. They had Daniel Jebison on loan for the first half of the season from Sheffield United. He had 7 goals in 20 appearances, so they were pretty reliant on him for goals and stuff, but he got recalled. Another example of a side's kind of January planning being thrown out the window by a club recalling a player. So I guess Omar Niasse is going to be too early to start, surely. He's not played a game for nearly 2 years, so I'm guessing he'll be a bench option. So we'll probably see Ghassan Ahadmi and Christian Sadie up front, maybe Lewis Moult coming into the side.
Yeah. Gav, the big debate these days when we talk about Ipswich is who the front 4 will be, or the front 3, sorry. Yeah, the front 3, sorry. What's your take for this weekend against an opposition that's probably likely to press us quite high, but look to clog things up and won't look to pass around us? Yeah,
I think Caden Jackson was mentioned earlier as an option just because of his pace getting in behind. If we are in a position where we can, we're being pressed and we can just get that ball over the top, then obviously Jackson is a good option. Obviously Macaulay Bonne is somebody that is still very popular with Ipswich fans for very good reason, but has struggled recently, and you do wonder if either Bonne or Norwood might just be a kind of too much of an obvious clash between the styles of play there. When I say clash, I probably mean the exact opposite of that. Too much of a blend between the robust styles of play that would cancel each other out. In all honesty, I think that Kieran McKenna hasn't yet found the central striker at Ipswich that suits the system he wants to play. And although there are good reasons for rotating that any position in the squad, I think that one in particular is conspicuous. But I do agree with the suggestion earlier that Jackson could be a good option in this one. And behind, I think we do. almost have too much choice. I think if you want somebody who can unlock a stubborn defence and has the experience to know how to break that down, I would love to see Sonny Aluko on that pitch. I think he's, we've got a lot of options there, but for me, I think he just has that combination of still being quick enough both in the legs and then in the head to outpace and outthink a position.
Same. Seb, how about you?
Absolutely agree. I think Aluko, Chaplin and Jackson for me would be the front three. I think Jackson's pace can cause problems. I think he deserves it. He played reasonably okay, didn't he, against MK Dons? He did what was required, and it's a great advert, isn't it, to show all the players, if you work hard in training and you knuckle down and you impress the new manager, then the door is not closed on anybody here. I think that's a great philosophy and a great message to have. So they would be my front three, and I'm assuming if Lee Evans is fit, he'd slot straight back in alongside Sam Moores in central midfield.
Score predictions, Seb?
I'm pretty confident, to be honest with you. The loss against them earlier in the season was our only loss, wasn't it, in our history against Burton? We've played 9, won 7 of them, so I think we'll win. I'm going to go for another clean sheet because I really like the way this back three is operating at the moment, and I think we'll win 2-0.
Gav?
Our last Saturday home game against Gillingham, we were kind of expecting, well, a lot of us were expecting lots of goals, and we saw a team come up and set up very deliberately against a formation that is now starting to get well known in the division, and I think we can expect to see that on Saturday. I am nervous about the set pieces, so I'm going to go for a nervy 2-1 home win.
I'm going to go for a 1-0, guys. There you go, 1-0. We'll see what happens on Saturday. The Flagship show will be back on Monday morning, talking all about the match. Ben, Joe and Craig, I want to say, for the Flagship show talking about Burton. Get your questions or observations in via the post-match tweet that we put out. In terms of bits and pieces to look out for, we mentioned earlier in the week the interview with Lucy O'Brien. Really excellent to speak to her, sponsored by Blue Monday and the Friends of Blue Monday. So a really good interview there. Book Club, our first episode of the Book Club podcast with Mark Donaldson, talking about the Paul Mariner book. Also really enjoyable, at least to be part of, and I hope folk will agree with that. And if you've got any other football books that you think might lend itself to that kind of same format, then let us know. Don't forget to turn up to the Greyhound for pre-match. Don't forget to buy a Turnstile Blues. And there is a midweek game next week, so there is a good chance of some kind of live show. Well, there will be a live show. It may be a post-match one, but because it's a home game, not too sure. But either way, as always, the details of all of our shows and what's going on, Blue Monday, itfc.co.uk. Who is ready to hear some Aqua? Me. And yeah, I mean, we can talk about the league table. Here it is for those of you watching on YouTube. Another defeat for me. Seb's going to mention points per game.
I have some questions. Yeah, how can somebody who's got a 50% total be below somebody who's got a 25% total?
Because it's not a metric that I think is relevant. And I think if we dig out the first show we did this, I did say that the percentage gap would be the differentiator there. So when you've got the spreadsheet, you can make the rules. That's how I'm going for it. It's not a democracy.
Presumably, if you lose this week, it'll be gone next week.
Yeah,
There'll be a week of frantic planning to try and think of another feature.
Yeah, or creating Twitter accounts to vote for myself. Yeah. We did Joe Royle last week. Yeah, Craig's Alan Mahon not signing was the winner last week, and we thought there's enough material there to do Joe Royle once more, and Gav is going to get involved in this one as well. Do you want to go first, Gav? Or do you want maybe Seb to go first and show you the way?
I'm happy to go first if that's good with you guys. So for my sliding doors moment in the Joe Royle era, I am taking us back to the 22nd of January 2005. and to a ground that is not even loved by its own supporters, which is the Medeski Stadium in Reading. I say in Reading. It's by home base on the M4, isn't it? Just off the M4. It's not even in the city of Reading. So January 2005, Joe Royle's Ipswich are top of the league. We've got Darren Bent and Shef Kikuchi free scoring up front, and we go to Reading. It's Reading, decent side of the time, managed by Steve Coppell, and it's a hard fought game. Rich, I know you were there. I certainly remember being there, and good away following as ever at Reading. Hard fought game, quite even. Reading with quite a few decent chances, but we held out. And towards the end, in the 90th minute, with Ipswich attacking the end where the away fans are at the Medeski, Darren Curry breaks into the nearest he will ever get to a sprint in a bit of space. I mean, Darren always looked like he was running into a strong wind, didn't he? Whether he was or not, and he sort of brought the ball forward with that. With that uneasy yet still quite exciting movement that he did, squared it across to Darren Bent, who scored. It's the 90th minute. We're top of the league. We've just stolen 3 points in a difficult away game. What a time to be alive. Reading go and kick off straight down the other end. Corner taken, and some guy called Ivar Ingemarsen heads home. So from being within maybe 3 or 4 minutes of 3 really important points, we concede that late equaliser and draw 1-1, which probably at the time we were reasonably pragmatic about, and you know, as we got on the alleged shuttle bus back to Reading Station, we're probably saying things like, "Well, we'd have taken a point before the game, so it's not too bad."
Nice one, Gav. Seb, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so mine is pretty much the exact same point in time. So I'm going back to the 27th of January 2005. We're strutting along nicely in the automatic.
We're watting along nicely.
Strutting along nicely.
Okay, we're strutting
in the
along
automatic
nicely.
promotion places, and we signed quite a coup at the time. I thought David Unsworth on loan, the left back or left centre back, you can play as well, on loan at from Everton at the time. And I thought that's a really, really good coup, and happy days, delighted with that, but. Crucially, it was in the day of 93-day loans. Do you remember those before? When you could do stuff outside of windows and stuff. It was a 93-day loan, and it didn't cover the playoffs. So we finished third, as we all know. We drew with Brighton on the last day of the season. We finished third, and Unsworth is not eligible to play in the West Ham games, which means that Wilness, who's been right back most of the season, gets shuffled across to the left back position at Upton Park, and Drissa Diallo comes in on the right-hand side. Now, I was certainly there. I'm sure you were there as well. We went together, didn't we, to the West Ham away? I'm sure we were both there. And Matty Etherington absolutely destroyed Drissa Diallo for the whole of the first half. Both goals, the goals for Harewood and the goal for Zamora, come down that side as he skins him time and time again. And then at half-time, Joe Royle subs him, doesn't he, and brings on Matt Richards and puts Wilness back onto the right-hand side. We claw it back, we get back to 2-2, and we're thinking, okay, we've dodged a bit of a bullet there, happy days. We'll see what happens in the second leg. But again, in the second leg, our left-hand side is a real problem, isn't it? Harewood puts that floated ball across for Zamora to sort of, mid-volley it past Kelvin Davis. And then Matt Richards gets turned that was the second goal. The first goal, Matt Richards gets turned on the edge of the area and they score. And yeah, not having Unsworth in that position, I think, was absolutely crucial because his experience, his strength, his know-how, he was solid throughout. We had a really, really good record in terms of clean sheets and goals conceded with him in the side. It was a really, really big miss. And I think if he'd have played both those West Ham games, we would have beaten them because we had the momentum from the first leg where we clawed it back and we were all ready to go. And the second leg, there was one Darren Curry shot, wasn't there, which Jimmy Walker kind of spills and messes up a little bit. I remember a through ball to Bodic as well, which I think he put it wide, but we never really got going. And I think if Unsworth had played both those games, we had a real chance that year.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from there. I'm going to go for a hat-trick ball of 04-05, which frankly is the last time we've got anywhere close, really, to going up. And I'm going to talk about 2 games. I'll focus on one, but 2 games where David Unsworth did play, and it made no odds whatsoever, were the defeats on the 22nd of Feb And then a few days later, on the 26th of Feb, to QPR at home, the 2-1 defeat to Watford, the 2-0 defeat to QPR, which just took the wind out of our sails. If we'd beaten Watford on the 22nd of Feb, we would have had the chance to go 6 points clear at the top of the table, and it just took the stuffing out of us. We didn't turn up. I know Watford were a bit of I think that might have started the Watford hoodoo, but QPR as well. Neither team particularly solid. I don't think either of them were troubling the playoff positions or anything like that. So both were surprise defeats, but the manner of the performances, and then it was followed up with the Wigan defeat, which I guess is not necessarily a surprise. And we've kind of, the rule is the Coochie injury is taken out of, we weren't allowed to go for that because that's just too obvious. But those two defeats kind of took us from top spot, or an opportunity to build a gap at top spot, to the point where it was only going to be playoffs, and then we lose the points to Wigan. So I think in that situation, if we don't lose those matches, I think we get automatic. We might not win the title, but I think we get second at worst. And I think, Unsworth was playing in those games, Seb, so I'm not sure what you would make of that. But anyway, it's not us who gets to decide. You've heard from Gav about Reading and relinquishing a 90th minute winner to Eva Ingemarson, and you've heard about not securing David Unsworth, or not being able to secure David Unsworth longer than 90 days, and the defeats to Watford and QPR in quick succession. Give us your thoughts. We'll do the usual Twitter poll, and we'll see who's where in the league table come next week. So get involved in the vote, and we'll play Aqua once more. I got a tweet from someone this week saying that this is too depressing a feature. So I know you're joking about me kind of pulling the plug on it, Seb, but I do think we might need to find something a little bit more. And Room 101 kind of had a negative tone to it as well. So maybe we need to...
we could do a section of our favourite games or something, couldn't we? Or favourite away days or something like that we'll do. More
positive feature to finish the season with. But nevertheless, Sliding Doors is here for a bit longer to go. That's your lot. Thank you if you've made it this far for joining in. Thank you to Seb for all your research. Gav, thank you for joining us as well. Good luck to all you and Turnstile Blues team. Just remind us where you'll be and what we need to do to get the next edition.
We will be at Portman Road on Saturday before the game against Burton Albion. We'll be all around the ground, but by Sir Ralph statue is a good place to find us. If you are in the Greyhound before we head down the hill with the fanzines, then come and grab a copy there. If you can't get hold of a copy, look for our social medias and see if you can get hold of one of the small number of copies that is available for sale on eBay for just £1.
£1. You can't buy anything for £1 these days, not even a chomp or a finger of fudge. So go and support Turnstile Blues. Great independent fanzine, guys working really hard to create great stuff for us to read, and insightful stuff, challenging stuff. So always an excellent read. And go to the Greyhound as well. Gav mentioned it, the best pre-match pub in Ipswich, according to the three of us. And we've got some expertise in this field, so I think you can put some credence in that suggestion. Do get involved with the Flagship show on Monday, and we'll be talking about Morecambe next week as well. My first away day of the season. So, Seb, are you okay to say goodbye to everyone? Gav will say goodbye to you. Thank you again for joining us, and Seb will let you say the final word.
Yeah, massive thank you to Gav for joining us. Everyone get to the Greyhound. Everyone buy a copy of the Turnstile Blues, and come on, you Blues.